Good afternoon, everybody. What's going on? This your girl Tiffany coming through live in effect. So today topic is going to be dealing with Dutty Boukman. Dutty Boukman, who was a Haitian revolutionary, um, but he also practiced voodoo. Okay, and so on this day, November the 7th of 17, what year was that? Yeah, on November the 7th, right? 1791, he died. He was killed. So today we're going to look at his life and we're going to look at his legacy. All right. And then hopefully, if I have enough time, I'll talk about other things. But right now, let's just go ahead and get to the topic. All right. So this picture is supposed to be Dutty Boukman. I'm not sure if that's him, but that's supposed to be the picture. All right. So let's look at his life. Let's look at his legacy. All right, if you guys can see that screen, post it up. So who was Dutty Boukman or Boukman Dutty? He died on November 7, 1971, right? He was an early leader of the Haitian Revolution. He was born in Senegambia, which is known today as Senegal and Gambia. He was captured, enslaved, and transported to Jamaica. He eventually ended up in Haiti, where he became a leader of the Maroons and the Vodun Hugan. According to some contemporary accounts, Boukman, alongside Cecile Fatiman and Voodoo Mambo, presided over the religious ceremony at Bois Camelin in August of 1791 that served as the catalyst of the 1791 slave revolt, which is usually considered the beginning of the Haitian Revolution. Boukman was a key leader of the slave revolt in Le Cape Francais region in the north of the colony. He was killed by the French planters and colonial troops on November 7, 1791, just a few months after the beginning of the uprising. The French then publicly displayed Boukman's head in an attempt to dispel the aura of invisibility that Boukman had cultivated. The fact that French authorities did this illustrates their belief in the importance Boukman held to Haitian people during this time. All right. So, a lot of revolutionaries, those who were spiritual, used voodoo as a supporting system, right? As a backup for them to be able to revolt against their oppressor. So, going back to the video I did about Obia. Obia is a form of voodoo that's usually practiced in Jamaica. It's very similar to the Haitian voodoo. So Obia and voodoo both played a role in the slave revolt, which is why during that time period, they were banned from being part of the spiritual practice because they were considered as evil and they were considered as sinister. So the laws at that time banned people from practicing both voodoo and obia and other spiritual system that's relating to the West African culture. All right. Go ahead, continue. So let's look at his background. So the background said Boukman was born in the region of Senegambia, where he was a Muslim cleric. Okay. He was captured in Senegambia and transported as a slave to the Caribbean, first to the island of Jamaica, then Saint Dominique, and then Haiti, where he became a Haitian voodoo Huguen priest. After he attempted to teach other slaves how to read, he was sold to a French plantation owner and placed as a commodore, means slave driver, and later a coach driver. His French name came from his English nickname Boukman, which scholars like Sylvain Anna Duoff and Sylvain Kamara have interpreted as having Islamic origins. They noted that the term man of the book is a synonym for a Muslim in many parts of the world. Laurent Dubois argues that Boukman may have practiced a syncretic blend of traditional African religion in a form of Abrahamic religion. Boukman was killed by the French in November of 1791. All right, so in fact, yes, a lot of them did practice syncretism by combining African and the Abrahamic religion together, just so that it will bring, so that way they wouldn't be easily spotted by the masters, the slave master or their oppressors, and also it was a way to keep things very secretive, more like clandestine. So they will practice these traditions in a very secretive manner, just to keep from the public's eye. But yeah, you're gonna find out that a lot of African Muslims, when they came here to America, they practiced their African tradition and blended in with the Islamic culture. Even in the continent, they did the same thing, because many of them came from tribes. So they were going to use tribal practices and mix it in with their religious ideology. So it's very common. All right, so I'm going to skip down a little bit. All right, I'm going to skip down where it says that an animal was sacrificed, an oath was taken, and Boukman gave the following speech. The good Lord, who created the sun, which give us light from above, who rouses the sea and makes the thunder roar, listen well. All of you, this God hidden in the clouds watches us. He sees all the things white people do. The God of the white people demands from them crimes. Our God asks for good deeds. But this God who is so good demands vengeance. He will direct our hands. He will aid us. Throw away the image of the God of the whites, who thirst for our tears, and listen to the voice of liberty, which speaks in the hearts of all of us. Dutty Boukman. And then goes on right here, say, according to the Encyclopedia of African Religion, blood from the animal was given in a drink to the attendees to seal their fates in loyalty to the cause of liberation of Saint Dominique. A week later, 1,800 plantations had been destroyed and 1,000 slaveholders killed. Boukman was not the first to attempt a slave uprising in Saint Dominique, as he was preceded by others, such as Pedro in 1676 and Francois Macando in 1757. However, his large-sized, warrior-like appearance and fearsome temper made him an effective leader and helped spark the Haitian Revolution. All right. And if you can go down here, you can find some references, look up more information. All right. So Haitian Revolution. It's called Historicalizing African Contribution to the Emancipation Movement, the Haitian Revolution, 1791 and 1805. That was written by Oyokola Ogun, PhD, Center of African Studies, SOAS, University of London. Right, this was written in November of 2008. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the introduction. So the Haitian Revolution was a unique case in the history of humanity. Indeed, it remains one of the most remarkable revolutions in the history of the modern world. It involved the establishment of a new nation by exploiting slaves who will successfully liberate themselves and radically and permanently transform their society. The new state became the second independent state in the Americas, and the revolution was the first anti-colonial racial war, the first incidents of mass emancipation in colonial society, and the only slave revolt that eventually culminated in a modern state. The Haitian model of state formation drove xenophobic fear into the hearts of all whites from Boston to Buenos Aires and shattered their complacency about the unquestioned superiority of their own political models. It is, therefore, not surprising that the literature on the Haitian slave result is so extensive to the extent that this fundamental historical phenomenon continues to attract considerable scholarly interest and debates. So let's skip down. There is no doubt that these are historical facts, but it appears that the impression being created is that the Haitian slave revolt was exclusively influenced and was a direct fallout of the cultural values and political vicissitudes of Western civilization. Franklin Knight, in his insightful work, did not mince words into reiterating this fact. The victory of the slaves in 1793 was ironically a victory for colonialism and the revolution in France. More worrisome is the fact that one of the most important leaders of the revolution, the Yoruba slave Dutty Boukman, who ignited the Haitian Revolution, has been reduced to a mere footnote in the body of the prevalent Western biased Haitian hegemonic historiography. Indeed, attempts have been made to cast doubt on the historical validity of the widespread view that Dutty Boukman actually started the revolution during a religious ceremony at a place called Bois Kaman in modern-day Haiti. Though Carolyn Fick tactically underscores the organizational abilities of the major protagonists of the revolution, she, however, fails to do justice to the remarkable contribution of Dutty Boukman, her exact words. Let's read down here. It can be argued, therefore, that the abolition of slavery in Saint Domingue resulted from a combination of mutually reinforcing factors that fell into place at a particular historical juncture. No single factor or even combination of factors, including the beginning of the French Revolution, was its catalytic ideology of equality and liberty. The colonial revolt of the planters and the free colored, the context of imperial warfare, and the obstructive role of a revolutionary abolitionist as civil commissioners wanted the termination of slavery in Saint Domingue in the absence of independent, military organized slave rebellion. Now, another major drawback of the current canons of the Haitian Revolution is the reluctance to locate the larger cultural significance, typically and centrality of the Yoruba gods of Shango, the god of thunder, Ogun, god of iron and war, to the eventual success of the Haitian slave revolt. All right, and so I'm just going to stop right here. So this is the author of this article who's giving their view based on their research about the Haitian Revolution and as you can see where I was reading, they spoke a little bit about Dutty Boukman. So as we all know that when we hear about the Haitian Revolution, in this case, we hear more about Toussaint Louverture, right? That's who we hear about, Toussaint's. But we don't hear anything about anyone else that came before him or those who came right after him. So he received a lot of credit for what he have done. But it was Dutty Boukman that really started the concept of the slave revolt in what turned out to be Haitian Revolution. But then there's other sources that claim that there was others before him that made the attempt, but he was the one that got it started because he was more intimidating at the time. But he eventually got killed by the slaveholders and the planters after a while. So he was a bold man. He was a powerful man, and he used his spirituality as a guiding tool to help him to fight in this war. All right. Let's see what else can be found. Um, so I want to show some more sources. All right, so I have a book right here. It's called Conjure, Magic, and Power: The Influences of Afro-Atlantic Religious Practice on Slave Resistance. Okay, this was written by Walter Rucker, and it came out in 2001 in the Journal of Black Studies. Okay. All right, so let's go down here where it says, although opium served as a powerful inducement to slave resistance in areas with high concentration of Akan speaker, the Yoruba spiritual system known as Ifa and its various Western Hemisphere derivatives, Voodoo, Santeria, Canbole, would play a similar role in other regions of the Americas. During the initial phase of the 1791 Santo Domingo or Saint Dominique slave uprising, for example, an individual known as Boukman Dutty, a voodoo high priest, was the initial leader who masterminded the revolutionary movement. Boukman had considerable influence among slaves, serving as both a religious figure and the headman of a plantation. The plan he initiated was on a massive scale involving hundreds, if not thousands, of slaves. The insurgents were to set fire to the plantation in the outskirts of the province of Lake Cape and kill all whites within the town. On the night of August 22nd, 1791, the rebels organized in the mountain range adjacent to Lake Cape. It was here that Boukman gave final instruction and made voodoo incantations while drinking the blood of a sacrificed pig. Although Boukman was the captured and executed early in the revolt, his action gave the necessary momentum and impetus to a movement that culminated in the only successful slave revolt in the history of the Americas. All right. And so then It goes on to say, of the ethnic origins of Bookman, little is known except that he was supposedly a fugitive slave originally from Jamaica. Although Vodum is a religion associated with the Aja speaking Yoruba, Fon, and Edo peoples of West Africa, based on all available evidence, Bookman was either a Mende speaker or a Khan speaker. Walter Watney has conjectured that Bookman was possibly a Muslim Mende speaking Mandinka, an assumption he bases solely on his name. This is because an educated Muslim Mende speaker in Upper Guinea was often called bookman by English traders in the 18th century due to that person's education and command of Quranic verses. All right, so this article here expounds on the religious influence, right? The culture, the African religious practice, and how they help the slaves to be able to fight a war and revolt against slavery. So here, this is the account on Bookman duty. So they're giving an account on the information about his spiritual background and how he was a mastermind behind the revolution. And basically, the reason why he received the name Bookman is because the fact that he was able to memorize the Quran. So as today, they also consider people who can memorize the Quran as a sheikh. So the sheikh is on that level of being able to read the whole entire book and memorize it and be able to explain it from their memory. So yeah, that's what the Muslim refer to him as today, the sheikh. So you got the sheikh, you got the imam, you got the caliph. Yeah, you have those people, but the sheikh represents the highest individual. That means that that person is very scholarly and that person is very thorough. So that person is able to teach the imam and teach the caliph and all of that good stuff. So, but yeah, he was given that name because the fact that he was able to memorize the Quran and he was very educated on that level. So if you want to check this out, you can go ahead, look up Journal of Black Studies, Sage Publication, Incorporation, Conjure, Magic, and Power, the Influence of Afro-Atlantic Religious Practice on Slave Resistance and Rebellion, Walter Rucker. All right. So I have one more source of information that I want you guys to look at. All right, so this book is called Toussaint Louverture, a biography. And it was written by Madison Smart Bell. Okay, you see what that person looked like. Yeah, that's him. Let's see what year this book came out. Okay, so it doesn't say. Interesting. All right, so yeah, this book is called Toussaint Louverture, which is his biography. And let's see what we can find here. Because in here is mentioned the name of Dutty Boukman. All right, so hmm, 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 hmm. All right, so I'm going to read right here. It says, by November 1791, the military situation had drifted into a kind of standoff. In the beginning, Buckman had been the principal leader of attacks on the whites and their property that more resembled in numerous riots than any sort of organized military campaign. Buckman was himself a Hungan or voodoo priest, as Bazu and many of the other early leaders of the revolt were reputed to be. And according to contemporary white observers, many of the men who followed them into wild charges were probably possessed by their awa when they attacked. Some waved bull's tail to fan away bullets. Others would simply wrap themselves around cannon mouths so that the men behind them could advance in safety. At first, these jihad-like onslaughts had been very successful as Muslim soldiers believed that death in battle guarantees them paradise. So the rebel slaves warriors saw death as the fastest road to Guinea and Amba de Lo. The defenses of the whites scattered over the northern plain were frail, and the rebel slaves needed just a few days to drive the survivors to refuge in Cape Francais. The first few sorties by the town's defenders were also overwhelmed by the frenzies of the rebel attacks. These were men who seemed to care nothing for death, and though many of them were slaughtered by organized fire, the sheer force of their numbers was still enough to rout the white military. As the weeks wore on, thought the rebels began to notice their casualties. According, their tactics changed. They did not expose themselves in masses with the former fury, wrote Des Fosses, a French combatant. They formed groups hiding in thickets before falling on their enemy. They even withdrew swiftly into the undergrowth. We were dealing with an enemy who, instead of making a concerted attack on the colors, would deposit in small groups so that they were able to surround or wipe out isolated or small detachments. And then, of course, it goes on to talk about how he was killed. Once again, Boukman. And when the news of Boukman's death reached Grande Revere, there were a spontaneous launch to slaughter all the white prisoners there in reprisals. However, cooler heads prevailed, if by a narrow margin. When the rebels first overran the northern plain, they had swept many prisoners from the plantation and taken them into their camps around Grande Revere. The more temperate leaders saw the value of the white captives as hostages, but for others, they were tempting victims for torture and rape. So again, this is the biography of Toussaint Louverture. And if you want to look up more information, you just check out the ebook. You can check it out on Amazon if Amazon got it, or you can if Amazon doesn't have the physical book, you can download the ebook online and just look it up for yourself. So this information, these sources that I'm putting up is just to verify the original source that I was reading from, which is WikiOne. So I always use like 2 or 3 sources to help back up the information that is being presented, so that way it could be verifiable, it could be proven or whatnot. All right. So, anyways, and peace to the chat. Peace. Thank you for coming through. Anyhow, I am going to call it a quits for today, but real fast. So the news just came in that Biden is the president. Biden is the president of the United States. We're going to talk more about that later, but me, I'm just indifferent. I'm not too thrilled. I'm not too happy. I'm not shout for joy. It's just very interesting that a lot of Black people is really happy that Biden is the president. It's just really interesting. I seen somebody say they were gonna go out and celebrate. Okay, well, go ahead. You celebrate, go ahead. I mean, it's interesting because I think people forget that what he has done in history as far as the mass incarceration bill is concerned. Okay. And then people are so excited about Kamala Harris being the vice president. And I'm all for my people getting up there and getting on that position of politics, and especially on that higher level. But when you're looking at the background, especially on somebody like Kamala Harris, who was a former prosecutor out of California and who has a reputation of prosecuting parents and individuals for stuff like marijuana, it's not so exciting. It's not really exciting. So I really don't have any type of emotions behind it. I'm like, okay, so let's just see what's next. At this point, it doesn't matter who is the president or the vice president. Let's see what they gonna do next. Let's see if they're going to enforce better agendas. What are they going to do? So hopefully Joe Biden will overturn this mass incarceration bill and get those innocent men and women out of jail so they can be home with their family. And hopefully Kamala Harris will back him up on that too. And hopefully the talk of reparation will come into picture, but you know how that goes. Anyways, that's all I want to say for today. I'll get more into that later on, but until next time, you guys, please take it easy on yourself. Please be safe. And with that being said, I will reconnect with you all later. May peace and power elevation be to all of you. Peace. All right.